questions. So I'm going to put the first question in the answered so you can find it. I am the addict who has been sober a little over a year and a half. I go to meetings 4 to 5 times a week and have healthy coping measures and working on rebuilding intimacy with my wife. I have an accountability partner, not my wife, who has been with me the entire time and recently switched to an accountability software that takes screenshots of everything I do at random intervals in an effort to show transparency and help my wife feel safe. She recently stopped looking through my social media accounts and my Google profile, but wants me to get a second accountability partner to watch just those accounts. My original accountability partner and my CSAT think my current setup takes care of these issues, and my second person would be redundant. I don't know how to approach this with my partner who I betrayed.
Well, that's, what's interesting to me about this question, Tammy, is something that we need to get more often, which is how often they're going to meetings and how long they've been working on this. And, that gives us a lot of really helpful sober year and a half. I mean, these are the helpful things that can lead into our answers, but I want you to start with this one because this one has some potential danger, like red light along with it. So I want you to start and save me.
No, I mean, to me, like part of it is it might be redundant, but if it helps her feel safe, doesn't matter, so at the end of the day, is there redundancy? Yes. Can you overly make her feel safe? I don't know. But if she's asking for that, you're doing really well. I mean, yeah, really thrilled to hear, going to 4 to 5 meetings, got a CSAT. I mean, like, you're doing all the right things. What's it matter if you do one more? Now, on the other hand, I think having the conversation with her of what are you expecting to have with this accountability? What are you specifically concerned about? I mean, that conversation may be useful so that you better understand it's not just about feeling safe. It's like, what is she looking for that she does not feel like would be caught in the safety net that you have created at this time? That may be useful information, for you to take in and see if there's a valid point to it, or if it's just, I'm willing to do this just to have her feel safe. That may be, you're doing really good. You want to move the relationship forward. It may be just like, this isn't that big of a deal, I'm just going to do it. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dr. Rob?
Well, I'm going to send to everyone what I wrote, which you can probably now see. And I said, pick your battles. Like, is this the rock you want to die on? Is a whole, I mean, this was important enough to you to bring to this setting where we don't even get to all the questions. And I'm thinking, like, is this the rock he needs to die on? Tell me that you want more time with your children and you and your wife are fighting, something that's meaningful that I might want to say, boy, you guys really need to do some work on, but who cares? Let her get 6 accountability partners. Like, is it really going to affect your life as long as it makes her feel safe and comfortable? Because as you know, you have nothing to hide. So, is it necessary? No. Is it going to make a big difference for you or the process? You're not cheating and all that? No. Could you be perfectly fine in your sobriety without doing this? Probably, but it makes her feel comfortable. So what difference does it make whether it affects your sobriety or whether you believe it makes a difference? It makes a difference to her. So I say pick your battles, especially at a year and a half. You should know better, no offense, a little shaming, than to fight over something like this. There's so many major things you could fight about. This would not be my choice. Anything else, Tammy?
Well, I just thought of, healthy connections is part of recovery. And if you have another accountability person, that person's going to be another part of your posse that can help guide you on other things, not just about the software and, screenshots. It would be another person that gets to know you on a different basis and can be another support person. So I don't see I don't see any downside to, making another person be part of your life.
Well, I just want to add one little piece, which is if you say no, you're doomed. Because the minute you say to your spouse, well, I don't really want to split it up. I want this person. She's thinking, what don't I know? What is he hiding from me? So, again, what rock do you want to die on? This would not be the one where I would want to make her suspicious or fearful a year and a half in. I mean, it's just not worth it unless you have something to hide. Thanks, Tammy, for that.
Okay, next question. How does a sex addict cope with daily temptations and visual stimulation, literally everywhere in the world? I feel like my recovery is not strong due to sexual fantasy, euphoric recall, wanting to plan to act out, etc. How can I stop the fantasy?
Well, a whole bunch of ways. Again, with this story, we don't know how long you've been sober or what kinds of things you're doing to make it better. So it's, if you're on your third day, that's a very different answer than if you're on your third month or third year. But I don't think you can stop fantasies. I don't think you can make yourself not think about things. You can redirect your thoughts, but just saying, I'm not going to think about that, it's like, I won't think about the elephant, it's all I can think about. So, um, first of all, the whole question about how do I cope with the daily temptations of visual stimulation? I think there are alcoholics who see people drinking all the time. I think there are people who drive by a casino. I don't think that I see people who have to eat every day, and other people have eating disorders. So while it is difficult, I don't think you can claim, that literally it sounds a little resentful. Like, how come I have to look at all this stuff that's out there? Why don't they just kind of put it away? Don't they know I'm struggling? So, the world is what it is, and God bless those who are out there having a good time. And I love it when young people express themselves in whatever way they want to. So, and they often want to wear less clothing. So, I don't think you control the daily temptations, but I think turning on yourself as a shame to shame yourself is also not okay. They say in SAA, it will, or it might be SA, I'm not sure which, I think it's SAA. They say, and I will quote, it takes years for the lust of the mind to drain away. It takes years for the lust of the mind to fade away. So, first of all, I don't think it ever really fades away because we're human and we see an attractive person and we notice. And even though your spouse doesn't want you to, you'll still notice. And then in a practical way, we ask you to turn away and redirect your thoughts onto something more meaningful. So, by the way, I'm saying that because that's something to do. I see someone attractive, I acknowledge I'm attracted to them, I move away. And actually what we encourage people to do is to pray for them or wish them well or hope they have children or whatever that is, humanize them. So there is an action. So it's very hard to say, I'm not going to look at the person, I'm not going to look at that person, but to say I'm going to do this, that makes it a whole lot easier. The other thing is that I think you should, how do I say this? It's a double negative. Stop trying to control your fantasies, because not trying to not do something in that way makes it worse. I think what we say in the 12-step programs and everywhere else is acceptance and surrender. I have these feelings. I might notice someone. They're not an excuse. My partner has a right to be upset about it, but I am human. I'm going to notice. And so that doesn't mean my recovery is not strong. My recovery would not be strong if I was looking at someone and then following them down the street. My recovery would not be strong if I looked at them and said, boy, they're really hot. Where can I hire someone who looks like that? But recovery ultimately is about your behavior and your actions. And, I would feel badly if Tammy were thinking about drinking all day and she was really struggling with it. And then she went to a meeting, but I wouldn't feel that her recovery was not strong because maybe she had a terrible day and actually thought about this would relieve my pain. So thoughts are not actions. Thoughts are just what they are. And if you shame yourself around your thoughts, you're going deeper into the pit rather than finding your way out. Tammy?
Hey, yeah, I have a few thoughts on that. First of all, like if my focus is all on, just like you said, the not doing, or on, well, I have these fantasies, whatever, I'm still head down, just, kind of into my world of active addiction or really close. I'm definitely middle circle stuff. And I thought, the thing that came to mind was, how can I be of service to other people? And the 12 steps we're taught to be of service. So what do you need to do is get out of ourselves? What do we need to do to be helpful to somebody? It doesn't even have to be about recovery. I mean, it can be anything. Go volunteer at the animal shelter. I mean, whatever it is, where I'm out looking at the world in a different way. I'm giving of myself. I'm contributing positively that helps us feel good about ourselves and reduces shame and all of those things. So I would invite you to, rather than me being focused on, I'm caught in this trap, which is what it feels like, you're caught in the trap of euphoric recall and fantasy, and I want to plan to act out and all of those type of things, like get off the treadmill, but go do something else. We talk often about the three circles. The outer circle is what is healthy, what is happiness for you. And it doesn't even have to be specifically, 12-step or recovery minded. It can be going for a walk. It can on the beach. Dr. Rob was talking about, sea turtles. When I'm running, which, I'm not always happy to be running, but I've tried to notice, interesting things so that I'm being intentional and looking about at, I mean, just amazing landscape. This picture behind me is one I took at an early morning run. I stopped and took a picture because it was beautiful to me. So it's those type of things. What can I do to get out of myself is basically, in addiction, we're really into ourselves and self-centered and self-focused, and anything that we're doing to be of service, to be helpful to other people, to pay attention to the real world, that helps us get out of our small self. So, okay, ready for the next one?
I'm actually writing something. I'm into chatting today.
Okay,
And so I wrote, we keep mentioning circle plans. So I just quickly wanted to say, this is a way that we do sobriety in behaviors that are not black and white. People in eating disorders, they don't eat or not eat. They have to have some kind of plan that they can say, if I follow this plan, I'm sober. And it's really the same in sexual behavior. We look at the inner circle. Well, let me say, there it is. And you can find more about it. Tammy, aren't we teaching a course in this?
we do. And I was going to say, I will add to the chat in a moment, but we have Sex and Porn Addiction 101, the next work group starts August 2nd, and you can find that on seekingintegrity.com. I will add it to the chat as well, but that's the kind of foundational information that is taught in that work group. It is not therapy, it is not treatment, it is not 12-step, but it really is, Dr. Rob has talked, it's the psychoeducational component. It's the stuff that you won't get in therapy, because you're going to talk therapy, you talk about what happened this last week. So this is foundational pieces going through the Sex Addiction 101 workbook that will be really helpful to get that foundation. So,
and just to speak of that,
that's because you put it in you put it just to the panelists. I'm going to copy it and put it to everybody.
I'm sorry.
So,
Tammy, there's just things. So I'll just tell you guys briefly that I promised Tammy that I would put a vacation note into my, like you've been on vacation, and like, so someone sent me an email, they would know I was away. And Tammy asked me the other day, she said, did you put that on? And I said, well, the truth is, I don't know exactly how to put on. I used to know, like, when it was really simple, but now you got to click this and do that. And Tammy, I think I'm behind the technological curve, to be honest. When TikTok was my exit, from the ride. Anyway, guys, let's continue.
So I just did. So the next question is, how does long-term porn addiction affect motivation?
Okay, well, I'm assuming this person is talking about motivation in life. Like,
that's where I was going with it too. So,
well, why don't you go ahead and start?
No, go for it. I just was thinking, I don't think it was just about having sex. I think it's about everything. So, but I don't know.
When I run to my sexual behavior as a means of damping down or tamping down difficult emotions, I'm not just tamping down difficult emotions, I'm just shutting my emotional self down altogether. And part of what lies in that emotional self is not just my sexual stuff, it's also passion about life and creativity and intensity. And those can be good things in a healthy life. They don't have to be bad things. So, if you're talking, and I'll give you another example. I work with lots of fathers, and this is particularly true at our treatment program, where I work with a lot of fathers who realize that they played with their kids, they spent time with their kids, but inside they would rather have been looking at porn. They would rather have been calling that girlfriend or whatever boyfriend. So they were there, and they were motivated to be with their family, but they weren't really there. And that's because this is what addiction does. Addiction is your primary life goal. I want to have access to alcohol all the time, even if it means I have to carry an open bottle in my car. I want to have access. And, so my focus is getting those bottles, keeping those bottles, finding. When an addiction becomes your focus, even if you have motivation for other things, you don't have time. Your head is somewhere else, and therefore your motivation gets killed by your focus on the addiction. So that's a long-winded answer there, Tammy.
Well, and I was thinking beyond your interest and motivations. So I had last week, I literally had 3 people who called me and they talked about, my life is in chaos, my life is in crisis, and then you start talking to them about what they really could do, like treatment. I mean, if you really want to change things, we have a 14-day program where you really do shift things in a pretty short time frame, especially for things that are lifetime, decades old issues. And as soon as then it's backpedaling. It's like, well, I don't really want to do that. And I kept thinking, like you were talking about, my addiction is my primary focus, and I'm not willing yet to let go of it. So unfortunately, it's motivation to do things differently as well as do life differently. So, and yeah, if the addiction is the focus, you don't care. So,
and I want to answer that one backwards also,
okay.
which is that the hardest thing for me to create, in fact, the one thing I can't help people with is motivation. Unfortunately, most people are motivated to come to treatment or join a group or whatever it is because they're in pain. And what they're doing, addiction, whatever, is costing them so much pain that they're willing to say, I'll do anything to stop doing this. But unfortunately, in human beings, pain is a really great motivator. And in fact, it'll override love when you spouses say, I thought you loved me, and then how could you do this? And I mean, drink or use or sex or whatever it is. It isn't that I didn't love you, it's that I wasn't there at all. So I can help encourage people to look at how to heal. I can encourage them to look at their histories. I can encourage them to understand how addiction is tied to things. I can encourage them how to take the steps, especially in treatment, toward change. But they have to have the motivation to grab onto those pieces and make them their own. And so it's interesting to use the word motivation, because it's the one thing that none of us can make someone else have unless we turn the screws on them and we say no more. But without motivation, I can't help someone, which is interesting on the other side. Thanks, Tammy.
Okay, next question. Thanks for all you guys do. Been sober over a year now, but working on a new disclosure. Original disclosure was rushed and 6 instances were missed. While I'm working on this with a qualified CSAT, my wife and I are in a therapeutic separation. We have healthy boundaries in place around, but my wife continues to break them. Since we are already separated, I am at a loss for what consequences should be, and I don't want to just let it slide. That's interesting.
I don't understand. The 6 instances were missed.
I'm assuming that those 6 things were not on the disclosure. So this feels like one of those where they had to list a zillion things, like
right.
So
I don't hear how rushed or what you experience as rushed. When I saw people in an outpatient setting, when I did disclosures, I expected within 6 to 8 weeks that you would, maybe 10, that you'd be ready to do disclosure. And there was a lot of work to be done between session 1 and being ready for disclosure, both for you and for your spouse to get support and figure out how to tolerate what they're going to hear. So I'm a little concerned about what rushed means. Does that mean it took a year, or does that mean it took a week, or what does that really mean? I am struck by, Tammy, always how addicts use language that makes them feel better than reality. 6 disclosure was rushed and 6 instances were missed means I lied. I either lied by omission or I lied to myself, but 6 instances to tell the truth were missed. And so I think just looking at that a little bit more directly would be really helpful. And I'm not sure what this, and I really want to turn this over to you, Tammy. We have the whole thing about healthy boundaries, and my wife continues to break them, and we're separated. What do you have some thoughts about that?
Well, I don't know if because it says we have, there was something about communication, but we have healthy boundaries in place around, but my wife continues to break them. So and I'm not sure what that is either. I kind of assume, if we're told that we're only going to call, we don't text, or, whatever it is, or we only talk about, therapy and therapy. I don't know. But I guess I would kind of like if in this case, the addict is saying the partner is breaking the boundaries. So can we just talk to that kind of more in general, with, because this happens, where there are boundaries in place about communication, or an appropriate time frame is set for us to talk about these things, and it's 24/7. This stuff is coming out because there's pain, etc. You look like you're not connecting with what I mean. So
No, I'm just thinking that this is very complicated. And the more I'm listening, you try to explain, I'm thinking we're sort of having to make things up around what the
okay.
story might be. I did want to say something about, you were talking about the boundaries. I don't know, again, I don't know what it means. When you say your wife breaks them, does that mean she sends you an extra text once a week? Or does that mean she breaks into your house and, destroys everything in your home? I mean, what boundaries she is
Oh, that's
breaking?
fair. Yeah.
So I don't know to what degree that is happening. And you are separated. So I think you do have the right to say, I'd prefer you don't come over unless you call first. That's what separation means, is an opportunity to regrow the relationship. So it also depends to me on what your focus is. I mean, you are in a therapeutic situation? Is it both of your motivation and intent to move toward each other? And if so, what are you doing to move toward each other, rather than your being not entirely true in your disclosure and her pushing the boundaries? I mean, these don't sound like the steps that move people toward a better marriage. So anyway, we should
Well,
go ahead,
and
Tim.
I don't, yeah, I was gonna say, and I don't hear who your wife is working with. You said you're working with a qualified CSAT. What is her support therapist, hopefully codependent lensed therapist, doing to help support her during this process? And if, if she's got to go through yet another disclosure because stuff was left off. I mean, there's so much unsafety and distrust or mistrust. So there's a lot to work on, but I have a feeling having your therapist help guide you in conjunction possibly with her therapist might be useful, and I do think, what is the plan for, why are you doing another disclosure? What is the plan after you do disclosure? Are you looking to, reunite, live in the same house? I don't know. So, okay. Ready? Next one.
Yes,
Does
ma'am.
hour of searching for best porn during fantasy phase after triggering lead to increased indecisiveness in other aspects of life? If yes, how to reduce this after stopping acting out?
Well, I think what this person is saying is, I keep trying to get away from the porn and I can't get myself away from it. And I'm wondering if that kind of inability to refocus my thoughts and inability to make decisions around how I want to spend my time and what I want to do, does that carry over beyond the addiction into other parts of my life, I think is the question. What do you think, Tammy?
I do. I mean, I was thinking,
Mhm.
you're in the, I mean, people talk about the bubble before. I mean, like, I think there's a whole bubble around the acting out, and, kind of like, okay, the dopamine's, diminishing. And so there probably is this, this time frame, and then some hope, possibly some guilt, and, so then the whole spiral, there's a really good graphic on the addiction cycle. You may want to check into that. That is taught as part
We
of our
teach
sex and
that in
porn. I
the
was going to say,
course.
as part of the sex and porn addiction 101 level 1 work group that starts August 2nd. We teach that monthly. That, that group consistently fills. It's, it's a really good foundation piece, but, like, and with all due respect, I'm in recovery, but I'm going, an hour of searching for the best porn, who even knows what that is? But like, so you've lost an hour of your life focused on porn, and then it's having all these other negative consequences for you. So I hope and pray that you're ready. I'm glad you're here, but we have so many support resources on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. There's drop-in groups for females or males.
They're free.
We have those are all free. The podcast, Sex, Love, and Addiction is all free, previously recorded webinars. And then the work group is a 6-week course. There's a fee for it, but it's, $350 for 6 weeks, 90 minutes a session. It's good content. So there's a lot of options that are free or low cost to help you, take that out, at least hour back. So.
And I really like what Tammy said, about the time that you're taking out of your life. And I'm just thinking, if I were your sponsor, if I were working with you, I would say to you, you can look at all the porn you want, but for every hour you spend looking at porn, you need to spend in a meeting, in a therapy group, and you can waste your time that way, but then you need to capture some of this craziness out of that box by committing. Can you be as committed to every 5 minutes you spend in the behavior to at least 10 in recovery? Yeah. And by the way, I don't believe it's an hour. I do not believe does 1 hour. In fact, I didn't see the word one. So I'm going to say does hours of searching. And what I know about guys spend a lot of time on porn is they're tired. They're literally, they're wearing their eyes out. They get headaches with the wrong glasses. I mean, they are tired because when you stare at that stuff for hours, and just try doing your taxes for an hour. See, looking at all those little things and what it does to your brain. You're all excited, but when it's over, it's exhausting. Anyway, enough, Tam. Sorry, I don't mean to go on for so long.
No, that's okay. Next question. Betrayed wife, 1.5 years since discovered affair and gambling debt. Previous issues with women and alcohol. Husband has refused therapy, etc. beyond your podcasts and groups. And this only recently told him I was done. And now he has gotten his first appointment for therapy. He expects that I'll be relieved and is confused why I won't engage. How long was I supposed to wait? I don't know how to feel. That's I'm
you
sorry.
get these
I'm glad you're
calls
here.
a lot, Tam.
I get these calls a lot. It's like, but exactly what you were talking, you're trying. I talk to partners all the time and they're like, he won't do this, he won't do that. And then I'm going, then save yourself, because as long as there's no negative consequences for him that are more problematic, than you, and I'm not saying you're nagging, but he can listen to the meh all the time because his primary goal is to continue to do his acting out behavior. So now you've thrown down a really big, big consequence. Right. Oh, wait, I was just kidding. I'm going to go to therapy. Good boy, gold star. No, again, this is 1.5 years since you discovered all of this, and there have been decades long issues. One therapy session, one 15-minute session every week isn't going to cut it. I mean, what Dr. Rob just talked about, for if you actively engage in your recovery, just like you did in your addiction, you're going to do really well. But a 15-minute session now, a year and a half later, one time, I don't know how to feel. You know how to feel. You need to feel angry, betrayed, and I'm taking care of you.
Yeah, I don't, Tammy. Yeah, I mean that when you say what you need to feel is angry and disappointed and betrayed, and and then I hear that, which Tammy just said, which is it's been a year and a half since you discovered it, and it wasn't just that, it was affairs, it was previous issues with drinking, it was gambling, and all of that. He refused to really get some help, even though he had some clues as to what it was about. But what did I say earlier was motivation for so many people? It's pain. And I know that a lot of you spouses really believe, and I understand this completely, if you loved me enough, you wouldn't betray me, you wouldn't do these things. And I understand that coming from betrayal and personal violation and adultery, I get that you have those feelings. And I don't think that any addict in another arena would have a spouse, well, they do, but imagine this in this way. If you loved me, you wouldn't drink. If you loved me, you wouldn't go to the casino. It's like, it's not about how he feels about you, it's his priorities. So all of this time has gone by, and this has not been his priority until you finally said, I'm done. My other concern is, what do you mean by done? Because I'm going to tell you, if you tell me as an addict, If you go back to the casino, or if you see that affair partner, I'm leaving, you better leave when you find out I'm at it again. Because once I find out that I can get away with stuff and you're not really going to leave, then your word doesn't mean anything to me. And I really do have power. I don't think it's a great idea to say I'm leaving in the beginning. I think it's a great idea to change the locks so somebody can't get in. Why should you leave the comfort of your home? Kick them out. But Tammy, I hesitate to say this in a way that I might, but I think inherently some of us are more able to stay connected and remain connected to people we love than others. And when you people who are particularly loving and particularly kind and particularly patient get hooked up with us, you go along for the ride and we pull you all over the place. And then a year and a half, 2 years later, you say, maybe this isn't going well. I'm not saying you love us too much, but sometimes it's hard to be objective when I hear, well, they did this and they did that and they did this. And I'm thinking, if someone told you that a friend of yours had been through all this, what would you say to them? So I worry about the spouses who are fearful of telling their truth because he or she might act out, or he or she might not, all the reasons that you tell yourself that you shouldn't speak your truth. So, I'm very encouraging of spouses being more real. One more thing, but I absolutely believe what Tammy says, because I see it as seeking integrity every day, is I read or talk to the guys, because we treat men at seeking integrity, about what their spouses have had to say. And part of what we do in treatment is we ask you spouses to write us and say, this is what it was like to live with him. And this is what I went through. And when I read that letter, almost always, I will hear some man say, my wife has said those things a million times, or my girlfriend or my boyfriend. I've heard that before, but until you said it, I couldn't hear it. And this is to Tammy's point, is that we nag and we complain and we get angry and we are hurt and we do not understand why they won't respond. They're not listening. To them, as Tammy said, it's like want, 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 want. Oh, there they go again, complaining. And yet in treatment, we read this and they realize what's being said because they're not hearing it from you. So I also want to reassure your spouses that you're probably saying all the right things. No one's listening to you. Unfortunately, they're tuning you out. Tammy, I said a bunch of stuff. Is there anything you want to jump in, or just want to shove me out of the way and keep going?
No, there was something else and I was fully engaged. So we're going to just move on to the next question because we have a bunch
Great.
yet. Okay. Do you have any advice on how to remove qualifier out of your life? I know it's not impossible, but it feels like it is. I don't know what a qualifier is. Do you?
Yes, it means that if I was a love addict, that would be the person, who
Oh,
I was.
okay. The person. Okay. All right.
The
Gotcha.
qualifier means the person who makes me qualify for the program.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I don't think I've heard that phrasing before. So, okay.
So when this person says it's not impossible, this reminds me of a meeting I went to years ago. There was a guy in the meeting who was clearly just obsessed with this woman in his life. And he was sitting, now we're not allowed in 12-step meetings to give people advice across the room. I'm not allowed to say to someone next to me, hey, guess what I thought of when you said that? If someone comes to me after a meeting and says, what do you think? I can answer that. But one of the ways that those rooms are safe is we do not give unsolicited advice. So I was listening to the men going around the room, and I heard this young man who was completely obsessed with this woman. And he said, I know she's going to call me. I know that she's going to text me. I'm already anticipating how overwhelmed I'm going to be. And I thought, why don't you block her phone number? Why don't you block her email and her text? Sometimes the simplest things that you might do, if you're really motivated, would take them, block their social media, be accountable to those things. There are a lot of things you can do to take your qualifier out of your life. In fact, Tammy, I just wrote some kind of article about how to break up, as I recall. But one of the things I wrote about is get rid of all the pictures, all the photos, so like get them out of your life, not just out there. But I see people come home and they look at that gift that someone gave, or they think, get rid of all of it, get it out of your life, because you need to literally take that qualifier out of your life. And it's not impossible. That's the part. It's just, what are you willing to give? What is your motivation? I have heard men tell me, I've heard men sell their businesses and move to another town because they were having an affair with the secretary and their spouse knew it. And their spouse experiencing that person going to work every day, knowing that they'd had an affair with that person they saw every day, was overwhelming for that spouse. And, you know, I can say all day long, I'm not doing it anymore, I never look. The spouse is going to have fear and anxiety. Someone who's motivated, he quit his job, he sold his house. I mean, that's how motivated he was. So, you know, your willingness really should come out of how motivated you are to get this healing going and change your life. And by the way, when you are doing this, obsessing about this person, you are not working on yourself. Yeah.
And I was thinking, and replace, you know, replace with healthy things. What, you know, it isn't just about blocking this person and going, oh, I hope they don't call, I hope they don't text, I hope they don't Facebook me, whatever. It's like, and I'm going to go make a healthy connection with somebody who won't be a qualifier for me. It's like, I'm going to enhance my world in a different, what have I not learned to do? So pickleball is really big here in Arizona. Yeah, and I'm looking, yes, I'm looking to join a league. I don't know how to play.
What is
It's kind
pickle?
of
I
like
picture people
badminton,
throwing
and
pickles.
I know, no, it isn't, but it's a big thing. But it, you know, it's like tennis and badminton combined, and you can play like any age. Anyway, so but I'm going, I want to do that. I want to learn that. So like that would be an enhance my world, and not just like, oh, recovery minded. So I'm going, what is it that you would like to learn to do, or who do you want to connect with? You know, there, I mean, think broadly, because then you're not just thinking like we talked about earlier about, oh, I can't do this, I can't see, you know, it's being taken away. You are choosing to enhance, you are adding real value and connections to your life. And I have always found for myself that, you know, you take something away, you know, I feel bad, you know, but if I get to choose to have something even better, you know, well, you know, I fall for that all the time. So like, that would be a good thing for me, you know, and my life is enhanced and better, you know, yay. And I'm not, so go ahead.
No, I
You look
think we
like,
should
oh,
move on. I mean, I
okay.
think I love that you talked about that part.
Okay, next question. A year from D-Day, and we are both in good recovery. My husband works in the medical field and had an affair with a patient. When discovery happened, he cut off contact with her and she reported him to the medical board. She is possibly borderline. What is your experience with medical boards and revoking or suspending license? I am terrified of future income loss, in addition to dealing with painful betrayal and shock that he crossed both ethical and marital boundaries.
Well, let me just say this in a very direct way. These are the people who come to treatment. These are the people, because I have relationships with people in medical boards, and I've worked in the legal system related to writing reports and involving. So, and I really mean, this isn't about us getting kudos. You need, in my opinion, for legal reasons, so that your husband can say, I went somewhere to work on this, and you know, lawyers always like that, or boards like to hear that you on your own were motivated enough, even if it had nothing to do with anything be suspended, that you on your own went to get treatment or help. So I'm just going to say that a few weeks with a qualified residential environment where you have people who can write about their experience, that's one thing. Uh, I don't like the she's possibly borderline part. I have to say that bothers me. This woman was taken advantage of in the workplace, and she reported this person, and she was well within her rights. And there's nothing crazy or borderline. In fact, I admire and respect her for being willing to take care of herself in this Me Too era. So I don't know her. She might be crazy, but that is not crazy. Taking that action is healthy. She took care of herself. What was she going to do in the workplace when he dumped her or was rid of her or whatever the heck? And by the way, if I was having an affair with a physician at work, um, I would wonder, what about other people? You know, who else has been a victim of this situation? No offense to your husband, but this doesn't happen once. You know, my statement about this, you know, Tammy likes this, I think, is because she has a fast car. And I say, you know, and when she gets a ticket occasionally, I say, you know, she's really mad. And I say, how many times have you sped? How many times did you go over the speed limit? Oh, I guess I go all the time. Well, this one ticket means that you were exceeding the speed limit many, many, many times. And this time you got a ticket. So this didn't happen one time or with one person. And so I would be much more concerned about more stuff. And by the way, if this makes the papers or this becomes public and when things go to my board, they are publicized. I have a clinical journal for social workers. There are clinical journal, and they are regional. They're not national. And it reports every single person who's just been reported to the medical board and why and what the dispensation of it is. So this is going to get in the papers. And then other doctors and people are going to find about it. And I hear about things like, for example, in small towns, like no one wants to play at our house because dad got identified as having a sex problem and now nobody wants their kids coming. You know, I hear those kind of, or my kid went to school and they said, oh, you're the one with the dad. Or so I think that just to say it, there are a lot more concerns. This is one of the reasons why this is a good case for treatment. And we often see these people for 3 or 4 weeks because reports are needed anyway. So there's all of that. My experience with the medical board is that they're going to, you know, they will absolutely investigate. If there are legal actions, in other words, if she creates a civil or other kind of report, not just reporting to the board, but if she does anything legal, she grabs a lawyer, she goes to the police, whatever, then they will certainly suspend, if not revoke his license, at least for a period of time until they investigate. In a Me Too era where people are much more closely scrutinizing power relationships for sex, he's in big trouble. He's in big trouble. And by the way, the other thing I wanted to say about his being found out in the community is, what if there are other patients? What are there other women or other nurses or whatever? And then they read in the paper that or they find out through their board or whatever that your husband's been suspended or he's being accused of this. How many women do you think are going to show up or line up? Or even someone who just doesn't like him and wants to make some money, no offense, but this is an opportunity. So there are so many things lying down the road. If it were me as a spouse or a partner, I'd be less worried about betrayal and ethical and marital boundaries. And I would be more motivated to see an attorney. Because, and I mean this, not that you have to separate, not that you have to divorce, but your husband is going to have a lot of consequences. And you, I think, are only beginning to imagine how bad it's going to be for him and maybe in reflection on the family. So absolutely, you should be in support groups for sure. You need women around you and therapists around you who are going to be able to hold you when whatever pieces of this show up. And you just never know. Like, you get a letter, you think it's whatever, it's a summons. You know, this is something that, you know, the phone rings, it's a reporter from the local paper, it's someone else's wife who says, I know what your husband did. I mean, it is a very difficult and painful situation, and I feel awful for you about it. And I probably see 2 professionals a month, lawyers, doctors, clergy, therapists, people who come in because of this very issue, whether it's a patient or a coworker or both. Tammy, I just said a whole bunch, but is
Yeah,
there
you
something
did, and you're spot on. And unfortunately, you know, like there was an opportunity years ago to intervene on this, and with addicts, like I was just talking about earlier, where the 3 people were like, "Oh, I'm in crisis. I'm in crisis. Oh, but it's not that bad. I don't want to really work on it." You know, so for those of you listening, if you think, well, you know, it isn't that bad, the operative word is yet, you know. So but for this particular person, I concur with Dr. Ruff. Support for you. You know, I feel horrible. I'm terrified of future income. Yes, do what you need to do to protect you. I don't know, but you getting information is power. You want to know, you know, what is at risk. So getting the right help, professional help to guide that would be useful for you. And it won't take the terrors away, but at least you'll know what's, you know, what you're up against and can pull the resources together.
And I want to add to that, Tammy, that's really, really true, because what you just said, painful betrayal, shocked, get ready. There's going to be more information. And for all you know, he's already tied up the funds. I mean, you don't know because you can't trust him. So, and not only not trust him, but not just with you and having an affair, he can't be trusted to maintain his professional ethics. You know, above all else, we'll do no harm. Like, that's a pretty serious ethical commitment that I have to make, that any mental health, physical health professional has to make. It's the Hippocratic Oath. It doesn't get more basic than that. And if you can break that, who knows what else he's doing? And I think you have to do whatever you can to trust yourself. And I know that this is not what you want to hear. I absolutely know that you didn't want to hear any of this. And I am so, so sorry. But if nothing else, we try to be truth tellers.
Yeah,
whatever that's
yeah.
worth.
And join the betrayed partner support groups on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. So, okay, next question. How do I get my spouse to look into sexual addiction when he totally denies that is what he is? We are in the flyover states and have no partner sensitive to APSAT's therapist anywhere near us. I am desperate because he has 5 affairs in the last 15 years. He admitted to me that I discovered what I thought was the second when we were in a recovery group. He is in a betrayer men's group. It's good, but as soon as we are out, I see the slipping and the stinking thinking. I know he will cheat again, and he just thinks I'm crazy.
Well, I think he is already cheating again. And I think there's probably an affair that's still going on because you feel it in your gut. You feel like this isn't right. And 5 usually means 8. So, again, I hate to bring bad information to you. I mean, excuse me, I don't want to bring you guys painful information, but I know addicts. And if you know this much, then there's a whole lot more going on than you know. And especially if you found out about one, but then there was the other. And, I worry about the level of care that he's getting and the level of care that you're getting. And are these people professionally trained? It's nice to see a therapist, Lord knows we appreciate it. We do good work with you most of the time, but addicts need special kinds of therapists, and sexual addicts need even more specialized therapists. So just being in therapy, especially if it's just him, it may be good, maybe a good men's group, but it's not going to direct him toward change. If you told me he's going to, 4 12-step meetings a week, and that wouldn't make me feel more comfortable. I also think that Tammy, Tami, at seekingintegrity.com, no, Tami, that's a 4-letter word. Tammy makes a lot of referrals, and we don't get kickbacks. What we do is we try to choose therapists that we believe in, that we've had experiences with, that we appreciate. I do a consultation group for therapists. I do an education group for therapists every week. We get like 35 of them from all over the world. And often people who stop in that group are in all kinds of places. So I don't think you need, in my opinion, an APSATS trained therapist, but you do need someone who's had extensive partner work and understands how all of that goes. And by the way, he wants you to think you're crazy because that makes it easier for him to do what he does.
So in the flyover states, I still know therapists that I can refer. So do email me, like Dr. Rob said, and I will do my best. If you're emailing me about those things, make sure you tell me where you're located, because that helps. Otherwise, I have to email you back and say, where are you located? Because I do try to find within your state, but otherwise I have outside the country that can actually work with you. So.
And I just want to say, Tammy and I have worked together for many years, and I have taught in Arkansas, I have taught in Ohio, I have taught in Indiana, to say that there's no help in the flyover states.
Yeah, no, we actually, yeah. So yeah, no.
Michigan.
Michigan's not a flyover. I'm from Michigan. So
I knew
okay.
I would get her with that
Yes.
one.
Okay.
Sorry.
I found text messages from my SA spouse's name in them about male enhancement pills a few months ago. About a month ago, he had premature ejaculation. And when I brought this up, he is now saying things to me like, don't worry, we will never have sex again. Go find someone else to pleasure you, and I can have sex, but I don't want to with you. I feel he has relapsed, but blaming me. He said because I brought up the issue, I was making fun of him. Oh, wow. Okay, this is complicated.
Well, if you love someone and they're bringing something uncomfortable up, I admire that. I think we have a good connection because they're willing to bring something up that's uncomfortable, that they know may make me uncomfortable, that is intimate, and they brought it up anyway. So that means they trust me, they trust in our relationship, and they can see us having the level of communication to work through difficult things like that. So him shutting you down and blaming you and making you feel ashamed because you opened up, to me, is no matter what you opened up about, forget sex. It could have been a conversation about money, or it's just concerning to me that your openness and your willingness to speak to something difficult and in a kind way was met with, shut up, you're upsetting me. I don't think that tells me a lot about the relationship. That's more problematic to me than ejaculation. So Tammy, what do you think?
Well, and this detail isn't in there, but it's like, how long has he been in recovery? Because I found this text message in my essay, has my spouse's name. Is that one of those where he's been he's in abstinence. He stopped doing whatever it was supposedly for the last 30 days, or has this been a year? I mean, part of it is the timing. What support does he have? Is he going to regular meetings? Like, there's a whole bunch of missing pieces with that. So I would be concerned about the recovery, but I'm also concerned that, he's so quick to be dismissive and not want to engage in the relationship. So.
And I want to add the word abuse.
Mm.
When you say to me, I don't want to be with you, that's abusive. I could, I could say, I've been really distant lately. COVID has left me feeling unsafe, whatever it is. But to blame you and say that I no longer find you, I mean, who says that except somebody who not only wants to shove you away, but shove you away feeling ashamed? So to me, that is abusive. It would be abusive to a friend. It's especially, I mean, you brought us something intimate and personal that was difficult. What did he do? He threw something intimate and personal about how you look and right back at you, only not in a particularly nice way. So I don't like him. I just want to say, and I don't think he's in recovery, because I would not expect anyone in recovery to treat someone they even think about or have thought about as a loving person in this way. Yeah, I'm sorry this is going on.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like, oh, that's a difficult conversation. I think I need to go talk to my sponsor. I need to go talk to my therapist. I need to go ground myself, and then we can have the conversation, but not throw it back to you. I don't ever want to have sex with you again. That it is very hurtful. So next question: betrayed partner 4 months post discovery, but he didn't disclose that he's a sex addict until 6 weeks ago. My SAH removed himself from our home and essentially our life soon after D-Day on the grounds of needing to focus on his recovery, but with little conversation. He is very self-focused, and it's like, I don't exist anymore. How can I get more definition to our separation? It's like he can't bear to look at me.
Well, I mean, there's a lot here, but if he can't bear to look at you, why are you there? Why? Who would? Okay, I'll tell you a little story. And Tammy, this is about a conference that you know about, and it begins with an S. We actually talked about this organization
Yes, we
today.
did. Yeah.
So I went to this organization for about 14 years, and I went every single year to this event. And I always felt that it was unsafe, and there were people there doing a lot of gossiping, and it was a lot of ego, and I just felt very uncomfortable there. And I was getting ready to go another year, and I said to my husband, "Oh my God, I'm not looking forward to this. Another one of these blah blah blah, and I hate going there. People aren't nice." And he said, "What if you didn't go?" And I thought, oh no, I have to go. I've gone every year. And so he taught me a lesson. He said, you don't have to go anywhere where you don't feel appreciated and safe. You just don't. And so there's a piece here for me about that, because you're concerned about the relationship with him and how he's doing it. And I'm thinking about, what about you? You had somebody walk out on you. You had someone who has also being abusive, say they can't bear to look at you, and they walked out, which means to me they are choosing the affair partner over you. So there's so much in here that feels like, you're the one who needs the protection, and you're the one who needs the safety, and you're the one who needs to not be looking at him to see what he's doing, but to think about, for example, how can I get more definition to our separation? What do you need him for that? You can make your own definition. Like, for 6 months, it's this, and you can go for a trial separation. There are many things but if you're going to sit around and wait for him, he probably is very happy not having to pay alimony or having to see the girlfriend. I mean, you're going to have to figure out what works for you. And that is really, really painful when you're used to depending on someone for a long time to make decisions together. But you're really saying is, how can I get more definition to my life? And he is not going to give you that.
Well, and I'm gonna, when you said making decisions together, I find often that the partners don't have much of a voice, because when I hear, and it is really one of those that drives me crazy. I hear all the time, oh, he won't go see a therapist. Oh, he won't do this. He won't do that. And I'm like, what are you hoping is going to change by calling? I'm glad they're calling, but what are you hoping that it's going to change if you already know he's not going to do anything different? Then, he's going to keep doing this. Addiction is a chronic, progressive, condition. So it will get worse. Like the person that was talking about the physician, it could have been different years ago, and now there's horrible negative consequences. How many people do we work with that are on the verge of losing a job, losing a family, losing whatever, or have lost it, and it didn't have to happen, but they chose the addiction in the moment over that. So the question right ahead said, I forgot to mention 3 years post-discovery, he had erectile dysfunction for 7 months post-discovery. So why now 3 years later, if no relapse after finding text messages on his phone? So I don't have anything else to add on that.
The only thing I can think is if this is the person who's still having affairs and all of that, at a certain age, you need medication to have it happen more than once a day, sometimes more than once a week. So he may be supporting, that's not a good word. He may be maintaining something that he wants to have more of.
Yeah. I mean, and even with porn, and there's porn induced erectile dysfunction. So, I mean, there could be lots of things about that, but I go back to what we said earlier. I don't buy that he's in recovery, and he's just abusive and mean. So next question.
Let's answer the last one. Yeah.
I learned 7 weeks ago of my husband's 39 years of infidelity. And I learned he regularly had sex in our truck. Burn the truck. No, I take that back, because there's an insurance fraud on that. I refuse to go in the truck. I don't blame you. We had reservations to camp with my dad, and now cannot get the trailer there because without this truck. What should I say to my father to cancel our trip? Our disclosure will take place around the time too, and I cannot deal with going. How much does he tell my dad?
Okay. So what should he say to my father?
About why they're not coming to camp.
Right. I don't understand why he is in charge of talking to her dad. Like, I think that's up to her to talk to her dad. It sounds like
I think she's going because of the infidelity, and he's the one that caused the problem because the truck can't come. So I think that's why
this is not a punishment. This piece is not a punishment. This piece is how do we decide to tell my dad that this is not going to happen? I mean, this really doesn't have to do for your father with what it's about, or he doesn't need to know why. He doesn't need to know how. That's not for him to work out. You have other people to turn to. And if you don't, TAMI@seekingintegrity.com, we will make sure you get some. But I don't think that your father learning anything about the details is helpful from you or from your husband. I think that your dad has his own life, and what's going to happen next Thanksgiving, if you guys work it out, he's going to look at your husband like, I hate you. You hurt my dog. It's just not a great idea. And
I'm thinking your dad has to be like mid 70s to 80-ish, and just doing math. And I'm like, I don't know that he really wants to know about you kids' sex issues, so.
And just because they're older doesn't mean that they, are ready to understand or work on this stuff. What would he say to I would tell him the truth. And it wouldn't be me. It would be me. It wouldn't be him. It would be me with my dad. And what I would say is, Dad, we're really not getting along, and we're really having some problems. And as much as I'd like to come see you, that's not something that I can do. Or, you know what, Dad, I'm going to rent a car and head up there and see you on my own because I don't want to go with Joe. We've been fighting. Tell him the truth, but not the detail. He doesn't need to know why you don't want to get in that truck. He just needs to know you're not able to get there and join him, or that the two of you aren't going to go. But I agree with Tammy. I didn't realize that burning the truck would create insurance problems.
So, but you can sell it, and you can get it. You can get a different vehicle. When people do that to the house, I say time to all new bed, all new mattress, repaint, redecorate. Take it back. So,
I think in one of my favorite scenes from this movie called Stella Got Her Groove Back is when this woman's husband has an affair and she takes his car out to the driveway and she piles all of his clothes, everything he owns, into the car, covers it with kerosene, and sets all of his clothes on fire. That doesn't hurt the car.
No, and you aren't going to put in an insurance claim, so then you're fine. So yeah, as long as you don't
We're
burn
not
down the
kidding.
forest. So
We are kidding about the, don't quote us on the set the truck on fire. But what I'm concerned here is the same thing that we've talked about before, which is this is a spouse who I think is not ready to be as angry as you might be at this man who's hurt you so much. And I would never, the rest of my life, not just on a trip, I would never get in that truck again, ever.
so this is a real quick one, and then we really will have answered all of them. So hang on, let me. So how do you motivate yourself besides using pain or fear? I am in recovery for past 10 months since discovery, but find myself becoming complacent. I've always been motivated by fear or failing or stress or anxiety, but not by interest. Any therapy techniques I can look into?
So I have worked with maybe 1,000 people in recovery over 30 years, really. And certainly I've run treatment centers like Seeking Integrity for a good 20 years or so. So I can say out of those 1,000 people who came to me for treatment, men and women, maybe 15 of them came because they didn't want to live the way they were living anymore. 15. The rest of them came because they were in trouble. So I think that the road to finding the motivation in yourself is in the questions that you're asking. And, complacency in my mind comes from lack of commitment. In other words, not to me, because I can be very complacent with my own commitments, but this is why we do things in 12-step meetings, like have someone be a secretary, or have someone bring the books every week, or someone who makes the coffee, that you have responsible, or you're helping someone, or they're helping you, and you meet for coffee. We have to actually make those relationships happen, which will allow you to not be complacent, because we all have complacent moments, but I still have to be a meeting tonight. I can be as complacent as heck, but I got it there, So if you're looking for techniques, very simple ones, make yourself accountable to things that you need to do for recovery that you can't just not go to, because you have commitments, not just yourself, but other people. And another way of saying this is accountability. When you begin to make yourself accountable to others, then you don't have to worry about stress or fear. You can think about commitment and caring about others and not wanting to disappoint them. Anything else about Tammy's?
Oh yeah, I'm nodding my head like I was like calendar reminders, but really the connections, be of service. Dr. Rob talked about, making the coffee. If you are accountable to somebody else and you can be of service, you are less likely to be complacent, because it feels good, I promise, to do something and go, wow, that was meaningful for me. And the more of those you string together, then it's less likely to be complacent. I am a little geek on apps, and so like my daily devotional thing, my meditation thing, I have a streak going, and I'm almost up to a year of every day, and I want the little badge. I want the, so that's very motivating. So what is it that's going to motivate you, to show up in a meaningful way? Like I said, for me, getting a little badge on an app is like, yay, cost me nothing other than my time to commit to do it.
And I would say that comes from a lot of recovery, because I would want a reward every single week, And
you get little
able to
ones,
wait.
but I want the year. I'm coming up for the year.
You can get both.
Yes.
The guys in Seeking Integrity, I will see you tomorrow. I'm not someone to be afraid of. I hear in treatment, Dr. Rob's coming. I am a truth teller. I'll tell you things that you may or may not want to hear, but not in the service of doing anything more than helping you grow. So I'll be at Seeking Integrity tomorrow, Tammy. You guys, thanks for being here tonight. I hope we were helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Rob. It was great. Great having you back. Karen did a great job, but thanks for having you back. Bye.
Bye for now.